Picture this. It's 1977, and you are in the middle of possibly the greatest directorial run of all time, with awards and acclaim behind you, and even more just around the corner. But a new idea for a film pops in your head that you just have to create. And you will create it, but you will have to wait 47 years to show the world what you've been working on for all these decades. And here's what people had to say about it once it was finally released.
It's unflinching how batshit crazy it is.
I remained completely confounded by almost everything I saw.
A 0-star, wacko disaster.
Megalopolis was one of the most anticipated movies of my lifetime within the film community, and it's one of the most bewildering pieces of modern movie history at this point. Some people applaud Francis Ford Coppola for the bold artistic risks that he took in the making of this film, and some people wonder if it's just a product of an old man with early onset dementia and too many yes men in his life. Regardless of if you think it's a masterpiece, one of the worst movies ever made, or something in between, there is no doubt that this is one of the weirdest movies ever made, and a perfect addition to the strange cinema series. Megalopolis had gone into production at various points over the last 50 years. Francis Ford Coppola began official development of the film in 1983, assembling over 400 pages of notes and script fragments in just 2 months. In 1989, he planned to move to Italy for a version of the film called La Ribellion de Catalina, and he described it as a film so big and complicated that it would seem impossible. He never ended up moving to Italy and instead decided to make The Godfather Part 3. Megalopolis went into production again in the early 90s, before being postponed yet another time. In 2001, he held table reads for the film with many of the biggest actors in Hollywood, including Russell Crowe, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, James Gandolfini, Paul Newman, Al Pacino, Parker Posey, Kevin Spacey, Uma Thurman, and Matt Dillon, who was first approached by Coppola to star in Megalopolis way back in 1983. They were so close to making it in 2001, even shooting 36 hours of second unit footage in New York. But after the September 11th attacks, the movie was cancelled since the film's plot had themes similar to the destruction of New York City. After creating a successful winery, Coppola put the film on hold until he was inspired to return to Megalopolis and hopefully finance the film himself someday. This movie was 47 years in the making, and it really feels like he put every single idea he had over those 47 years into the final film. It's packed with big ideas about politics, humanity, creativity, the past, the present, and the future. Its cast is stacked with stars and acting legends from the past 50 years, and its tone feels like it's trying to be a dozen different movies at once. It's a film that contemplates the future of society while asking the question, how can we save the falling empire of America? And it's also a film where Jon Voight asks Aubrey Plaza and Shia LaBeouf, what do you think about my boner?
What do you think of this boner I got?
And then essentially going psych, it's a crossbow, and then he shoots them with it. That's a real thing that happens in one of the most important scenes of this movie. There are so many big ideas and questions that this movie asks of its audience, and they certainly don't all pay off. It really depends on how much you're willing to buy into this movie and its tone. So much of this movie's themes and ideas are heavy-handed and lacking any sort of subtlety, but the bluntness is almost beautiful at times. There's a scene where they are driving through the bad part of town, and there are these huge anthropomorphic statues that are moving and crumbling on the side of the road. While we see this, one of Julia's lines are, surrounded by injustice, so much suffering. It's so on the nose, but why not? In a movie with so many ideas, I like how they say them right up front and then use the medium of filmmaking to help make that point special. Those statues are the only anthropomorphic objects in the whole movie, so it really adds emphasis to the point of this scene. In the story of the film, there is no logic as to why these statues can move, but it doesn't matter. When Salvador Dali paints a melting clock, it doesn't matter why it is that way. It just matters if the image hits the viewer's eye and makes them feel. Francis Ford Coppola crafted this film like a surrealist painting. With little room for logic in the real world, every scene has a new visual language that it uses to get its point across. By throwing real-life logic away and making a fantasy, they are able to take whatever stylistic risks they want. Visually, Megalopolis swings wildly between breathtaking and bizarre. Some have likened the CGI to a cross between a Linkin Park music video and Spy Kids, but others marvel at its more striking moments, such as when the characters randomly appear in a snow globe or the roses that defy gravity. One of my favorite visual moments of the film happens when there are meteors showering down onto New Rome, and the fire casts shadows of people flinching, projected onto skyscrapers. The look of this movie can often hold it back, but when it works, it truly is amazing seeing something that I've never really seen before. This movie is very interested in both the past and the future. The acting, costumes, and sets are all made to resemble silent films and early talkies, whereas the visual effects and plot look to the future to hopefully find something greater than the past or the present. More than the questions about politics and humanity, the stuff that really spoke to me was how this movie speaks about itself. Adam Driver plays the character of Caesar Catalina, who, much like many leading roles in Coppola films, is a direct analog for Francis himself, a man with a big idea who is fighting against bureaucracy to create something truly great. The first scene of this film is Caesar at the edge of a building, begging the audience to take a leap of faith with him. You need to take a leap of faith to create something great, and you need to take a leap of faith to appreciate it too. This movie lives on the back of the risks that were taken to get it made. First, there is the huge financial risk that Coppola took himself, but you can find risks in every single aspect of the movie. Perhaps none as risky as the live interaction portion of the film. Coming out of the Cannes Film Festival, there was a lot made about one scene where Adam Driver, the real-life Adam Driver who was in the theater watching the movie, stood up and spoke directly to the screen. And then the Adam Driver on screen who was playing Caesar Catalina responded back to him. In all my years of watching film, I have never heard of an interactive element like this, and it immediately hit the media frenzy of questions people had about this movie. How would they do this in regular theaters? Would they have to parade Adam Driver around from city to city so that he could act live in each theater? In reality, what happened was much less fun. The normal screenings would just have the character ask the question from off screen, and then there were special events called the Ultimate Experience, where a movie theater employee would stand up in front with a microphone and ask a scripted question to the screen. Most of the time, it was lip-synced anyway. I couldn't attend one of these screenings, but from what I heard, they were pretty anticlimactic, which begs the question, why did they even do this if it was for such an inconsequential scene? Was it just because they could? There's one scene where Adam Driver is tripping on pills, and they chant over and over, "When we leap into the unknown, we prove that we are free." This is a movie with a million ideas, but this is its most important. Coppola and all the people who worked on this are leaping into the unknown to free themselves. Was it worth it to add an interactive part of this movie? Maybe not, but they leapt into the unknown to free themselves of the shackles of modern movie making, to hopefully find something new and better. And that was a risk worth taking. Speaking of being free, every actor in Megalopolis must have felt like they were free to really go for it with their performances here. Every scene is filled with bold acting choices, with every character feeling like they come from a different film throughout history. Aubrey Plaza feels like she's straight out of a fast-talking Katharine Hepburn rom-com from the 40s. She plays a character named Wow Platinum, and somehow lives up to that title. Wow is a superficial woman who's willing to sleep her way to the top. It really could be a fruitless role if it were in the wrong hands, but she's able to bring so much comedy to this performance. Comedy that I'm afraid many of the more seasoned actors in the cast couldn't pull off.
You're anal as hell. I, on the other hand, am oral as hell. Me and Crassus's bank, which I'll steal so I can give it to you. God damn it, Jerry!
Shia LaBeouf plays Claudio almost like a privileged bully villain in an 80s teen movie. His over-the-top antics and jealousy-driven quotes make him such a fun antagonist. He has a few of the funniest moments in the film, like the line, "Revenge tastes best while wearing a dress," and the hilarious moment where he throws his hat on the ground just to yell at his henchmen to pick it up.
Revenge tastes best while wearing a dress.
Pick up my hat. Pick up my hat. Pick up my hat. Tra-la-la.
One of the most shocking scenes in the film is the sex scene between Wow and her nephew by marriage, Claudio, where she doms him, forcing him to call her Auntie Wow, all while Shia's silhouetted LaBouche is out. It's one of the wildest scenes I've ever seen in a movie theater. It's so uncomfortable, but also so funny at the same time. There are so many talented actors in the cast, some of which are wasted, and some feel a little overmatched. like Natalie Emmanuel, who sounds like she picks up and drops a Brooklyn accent randomly every few lines. But the actor who won the movie is clearly Adam Driver, who plays Caesar so well that it's hard for me to imagine anyone else at the head of this odd film. So much of this movie lives on his shoulders. He has to deliver so much dialogue, some of which is Shakespearean, some of which are laugh lines, some scenes need to be romantic, and everything in between. The movie tries to pull off a lot, and he is the glue that holds it all together. He has to deliver long monologues about the future of humanity, but he also has to deliver the line,
"What I like are those little hot dogs wrapped in a pastry. I think I can't remember the name of them right now. Pigs in a blanket, that's what they're called. Really, the Nobel Prize should be for the person who invented those."
So much of the gravitas of this film is captured by him, but he's able to make every moment of the film interesting with its own unique performance choice. We literally get to see him play patty cake in this movie, and we also get to see him do this crazy spaz dance while he's tripping on drugs. By now, the most famous scene of the movie is the first scene where Caesar and Julia meet, and they have this instantly iconic exchange.
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes. So go back to the club.
These are not acting decisions that you can make without being truly free to do so. And whether it's good or not isn't really for me to decide. I don't know what about this movie is good or bad. I just know that I was entertained, and I have been thinking about this movie every day since I first saw it. I think one of the reasons this film wasn't able to connect with most audiences is because of how optimistic it is. This film is not cynical at all, and we live in very cynical times. You can call it Coppola's boomer ideology, but it has a very Capra-esque worldview. With some positive thinking, creativity, and teamwork, Caesar Catalina was able to make his dreams come true and make the world a better place in the process. While this may seem like something that's impossible in the real world, Francis Ford Coppola did exactly this with his new movie. After almost 50 years of trying and failing to get this made, he was able to do it through positive thinking, creativity, and teamwork. It seems very hacky and sentimental, but that's what this movie is. This is a movie about your crazy ideas that you may be afraid to follow, and letting them go and seeing where they take you. I personally am a very positive person, and I relate to stories like this. Caesar Catalina is a character who just wants to love his wife and create something great, and that's pretty much my goals in life too. Most art in the world today is created to get money or views, and quite frankly, I just find it beautiful to see something that is made purely because an artist was bold enough to take a leap of faith and follow their dreams. If somebody told me this was the worst movie they'd ever seen, I'd believe them. But if another person told me it was their favorite thing they've ever seen, I'd be right on board with that too. All I know is that this movie is weird as hell, but I'm glad it exists. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let me know down in the comments, what did you think about Megalopolis? I feel like most people I know who have seen it did not like it, but I really found a lot of enjoyment with it. Also, let me know down in the comments what are some other strange movies to include in the Strange Cinema series. I'm probably going to take a few months off of this series, but I will definitely return to it in the new year. As always, I got a lot more headed your way, so stay tuned, stay safe, and stay deaf. Thanks for watching.